Captain Cassandra Thorne stood on the bridge of her ship, the Freaky Fred. Little more than a simple cargo barge that hauled basic supplies like flour and soap. She was nervous, pacing, checking, rechecking, then checking again. It wasn't due to the fact she had the lives of 87 people on her every choice. It wasn't that if they didn't get a juicy enough cargo contract, they wouldn't be able to afford fuel. It wasn't the threat of rogue asteroids or the occasional pirate extortion attempt. No. This was a different kind of pacing. No. Her pacing and nervous behavior was of a motherly nature. "Ensign, has anybody seen my daughter anywhere?" "Last reported in the mess, Captain. Why, is there a problem?" he responded. No, it's just our new friends, the Serapinians. She's scared shitless of snakes." Cassandra resigned herself to her seat, but maintained her nervous demeanor. "Oh, uh-oh," everyone said in turn, echoing the sentiment. It was no joke either. Serapinians were gigantic snake-like reptilians that resembled a certain species of poisonous snake, and they were the width of a Doberman and length of 3 city buses. They were, however, fully sentient, just like humans, and they had a strangely similar societal structure, despite the egg-laying. One aspect that made humans nervous to be around them was the fact they were giant fucking snakes. Other than that, they were quite delightful to be around. The captain's daughter, a 5-year-old girl with a notorious case of ophiodiophobia, had to be brought on during this trip owing to her father's business commitments and a lack of extended family this far out in the rim. Owing to the fact 15 of her 80 crew members were Serapinians, she was terrified her daughter would freak out to the point of a coma at the sight of one, but she had little choice in the matter, and was very much hoping that paths would never cross. As the captain settled into her seat, a great commotion was heard outside. Moments later, astride one such Serapinian was her daughter, waving a princess crown in the air. "Horsey go zoom!" the child squealed in delight as they charged into the bridge, did a loop around the captain's chair, then charged out the other door. The Serapinian's body wrapped around the chair, forcing the poor captain to spin in her seat several times. Everyone, especially the captain, was conflicted, confused and befuddled, half trying to figure out what the hell just happened, and also trying not to collapse from laughter. The captain caught her mind, and when the room stopped spinning, she yelled out, "Amber, get back here! That means you too, Crew Sergeant Arthurs!" She yelled down the corridor, barking at the two to return. The pair returned moments later and stood in front of her. "Are we in trouble, sir?" Arthur said, his translator making sense of his hissing and flickering tongue. "I am on my break, so I didn't think this would be an issue." The captain looked at her daughter, previously terrified of snakes, now sitting astride one the size of a bus and having the time of her life. "Amber, sweetie, you're supposed to be scared of snakes." "Yeah, I am. There isn't one here, is there?" the child said, frantically looking around for any potential snaky threat. You're riding one," she said, pointing at Arthurs as she was scarcely able to comprehend what was going on. "I am?" The girl looked down. "That's not a snake," the child replied with a mocking smirk. "And how have you come to that conclusion exactly?" "It's wearing a hat," the child said, pointing to the small cowboy hat on the snake's head just above its eyes. "Snakes don't wear hats." Was all the captain could say in response. "Besides, he's not a snake. He's a serpent. Did I say that right?" Arthurs nodded. "Yay! See? Snakes don't wear hats. Serpents do. Not a snake." Cassandra's jaw was on the floor at the sheer flawless logic of her 5-year-old daughter. Was all she could muster in response to that. The two looked at him. Art? What's up, milady? Arthas hissed in response. Did I break her or something? I think she's broken, the child said, looking down at her mighty steed. Nah, she's fine. Captains do this all the time. They do thinky brainy stuff. Wanna get some burgers? Burger! The child excitedly squalled again, throwing her hands in the air. Arthas then made jet engine noises with his mouth and charged out of the room, heading towards the cafeteria. It was at this point that Cassandra completely lost it and began to wheeze out a hysterical laugh. The entire crew present likewise broke out into a gale of hysterical laughter, as the captain collapsed out of her seat from laughing too hard.